All right, welcome to today's class on DocuSign 101. My name is Leah with Scott Leroy Marketing, and in today's class, I'll be taking you through how to start a transaction in Command with DocuSign. So I'll walk you through the steps of how we're going to add our contact to our database, create an opportunity, and then create our DocuSign room. And that's where we'll go ahead and access our real estate forms. You'll be able to edit those forms by just typing in them and send for electronic signature. All right, so I'm going to show you how to do all of that. But the first thing that we need to do is the login to Command. So that's where I am on my screen here. So if you can join me, if you're going to follow along, that is agent.kw.com. Again, that's agent.kw.com. Would you guys mind confirming in the chat if you can hear me okay, if that's echoing for everyone? So again, agent.kw.com. All right, perfect. Thank you all. Love it. Thank you all. I appreciate your input. And of course, feel free to ask any questions in the chat as we go along too, now that you guys are comfortable being in here. All right, so agent.kw.com, I always remember that like it's the agent login for kw.com. So that's agent.kw.com. And we'll go ahead and put in our username and password here. All right, and I know if you're anything like me, I have about 9 million passwords. So if you have any trouble logging in here, first of all, your username is generally something like your first initial and last name, and maybe a number at the end if your last name is more common. And also your password is case sensitive, so that'll require an uppercase letter, lowercase letter, and a number. If that helps jog your memory. However, if you have any issues logging into Command, you can go ahead and click Forgot Password right there. Or again, feel free to shoot us an email, support@scottleroymarketing.com. We're more than happy to help you reset your password. We just need your Command username. And that'll take you on into Command, where we just need to do one bit of housekeeping. We need to make sure that DocuSign is properly linked to Command to allow you to use the two together. So to go ahead and check on that, if you could follow me by clicking on your name on the top right of Command, and then Settings from that dropdown. So your name on the top right of Command, and then Settings right here. That'll take you on over to the current apps that you have connected to Command. Now, to make sense of this section, I like to think of this as a brand new iPhone or an Android, any smartphone. Right out of the box, when you get a brand new iPhone, let's say, it has a lot of really cool features. However, you can go to your App Store or your Google Play Store on Android, and you can download more apps to increase the functionality of your iPhone or your Android. Same concept here with Command. So out of the box, it has a bunch of really great features. However, you can come into this apps section under your name and settings to link up further apps to increase the functionality of your Command account. So for this class specifically, of course, we'll be checking on DocuSign. So you'll see your connected apps at the top. So any that you currently have connected will be at the top. So yours will probably be in a different order than mine. That's totally fine. All right, but if you do not see DocuSign near the top, so this is the goal. We want to see DocuSign near the top with that connected status to the right-hand side. And you'll also see kind of like a preview of what that email address is that will be your username for DocuSign. So store that in your mental notes. However, if you scroll down, if you're not seeing DocuSign at the top, I believe that's under productivity if you scroll down. So go ahead and find DocuSign, and if you have, if DocuSign is further on down and showing not connected, you'll want to click on Connect Account on the right-hand side. Okay, and if you have any issues linking up your DocuSign account to Command, first of all, feel free to shoot us an email, support@scottleroymarketing.com, throwing that again in the chat. We're more than happy to help you link up your DocuSign account to Command. It can be a little fickle sometimes, so we're more than happy to help you with that. And at this time too, I'm going to go ahead and share out the notes for today's class. And there's a quick video that will walk you through creating a KW DocuSign account if if you have not already, and also accessing your forms. So I'm just going to pull over the notes onto this screen, and I did just drop this in the chat. Just a heads up if you want to grab that. It's the most recent link in the chat. So just an overview you can watch on my screen too. So what this is kind of like, I wanted to create a DocuSign notes and tips guide that centralizes all the tips, like the tip videos, the quick 10-minute tip videos I have on DocuSign, and any notes I have, written notes on DocuSign if you prefer to learn with notes as well. All right, so what you're seeing here, first of all, at the top, if you guys have to leave early for today's class for any reason, just know it's being recorded, and I'm going to be adding the new recording on the very top here. I'll just go ahead, and this will be, is today the 4th? All right. So I'll go ahead and we'll put the 11-4 class here. And I will replace update to come. So after today's class, I will replace this link at the top with the newest video so that you can watch this class recorded anytime, and you can pause it to follow along as well. Now, scrolling on down, I do just want to point out, if you click on the first link here, that's where I'll be starting with in today's class. These are the written notes, written steps 1 through 10 on how to start and manage a transaction in Command with DocuSign. So that first link here for DocuSign steps, I'm going to click and open it so I can show you guys this. I will throw this one in the chat as well. Of course, it's on the notes guide, but just so you have a direct link. All right, so these are the steps, throwing this in the chat. And just a heads up, if you're watching this class recorded, I will be putting these notes in the YouTube description below, so you can grab the link there. All right, but this is what I'm going to be pulling on my other screen and walking you through in today's class. Steps 1 through 10 on how to start a transaction in Command and manage it to the very end. All right, so this is what we'll be going through in today's class. If you like written notes, this is for you. So just wanted to pull that up. And also on the DocuSign links, so just on that other, on the notes and tips guide here, just to note what else you're seeing here as you scroll on down. I do have 10 to 15-minute tip videos that break down a lot of the topics that we're going to talk about, and a lot of the topics in the DocuSign 201 class, which is next Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern time. So you can watch these after today's class if you would like further information on how to create templates, for example, in DocuSign. Or how to add a commission request. Of course, we'll be going over a lot of this, but I just want to show you these are the 10 to 15-minute videos on breaking down this class so you can get further info on that. All right, so I am going to just keep the first notes open, right? So that's at the very top of the list here, DocuSign steps. I'm going to pull that open and take this on my other screen. So I'll be following along with this as I guide you guys on how to create a DocuSign transaction. And let's do it. All right, so again, we are verified that our DocuSign account is linked to Command by clicking our name on the top right of Command and then settings, right? Again, if you're just joining us, we want to make sure DocuSign is connected. So let's go ahead and kickstart the process of actually creating a transaction in DocuSign from Command. Okay, because anytime you start a new transaction in DocuSign, you'll always start that in Command. And I'll harp on that quite a bit as we go through. And of course, I'll show you that firsthand. So first thing that we need to do, according to the notes I gave you, is we log into agent.kw.com. Check, we're in Command. Second thing we do is we need to add a contact to our Command database. So in order to start a transaction in DocuSign, your contact has to be in your Command database first. So DocuSign is using your Command database in order to pull over all of your contacts, your clients' information into DocuSign to autofill on your forms. And if some of that sounded like foreign words, don't worry, I'll be showing you that. So hold tight. All right, but if you can follow me to the contacts icon on the left-hand side menu for your contact database. Just a quick tip, of course, if you click the KW logo on the top left, that'll pan out this menu, which will tell you what each icon stands for to help you learn the navigation of Command. We're selecting the contacts icon, the second one down. All right, so at this point, you can either go ahead, if you have a test contact in your account, feel free to go ahead and search for them on the top left. Or If you do not have a test contact in your account, let's go ahead and add one in. Okay, I always like to add myself as my test contact so you can see what it looks like when your clients receive anything from the command system, whether it's marketing, maybe a DocuSign form. I always find it's really helpful to go through it as if I were the client. So let's go ahead and add yourself as a test contact if you don't already have yourself in here. All right, if you already have yourself, you can just search on the top left to pull that up. So I'll click on Add Contact on the top right of our command contact database. And let's go ahead and put in a first and last name. This can be test, practice contact, your spouse's name, your name, your favorite movie star, whoever you'd like to be your test contact here. I watched Arrival last night, which is an awesome movie, by the way. So Amy Adams will be buying a house today. So any name for the full name here, but for your email address, we really want to put an email address that you have, again, so that you can see what it looks like when you your client receives things from the system. It will not allow you to add a duplicate email address. So just a heads up, if it is already in your database, you'll just need to search instead, because it will not allow you to add duplicates. And you can click create. Now I am just going to explain how relationships work in your command database and with opportunities as well, because I usually get that question at this point. So just a heads up, if there's a spouse in the transaction, right? You have two parties that will be purchasing this home or selling their home. All right, so how command wants that set up is command wants you to add them in as two separate contacts. So as opposed to putting in the spouse's name right here, you know, like Ann, John Adams, command instead wants you to have that other contact, the spouse, added in as a separate contact. And you link the two contact records with this relationship field. So where it says add relationship here, I can go ahead and select what the relationship is, and then go ahead and select the contact. All right, in theory, that contact would need to already be in your database. All right, however, if they are not in your database quite yet, no worries. You can actually add them at this time. So I can click add on the right-hand side. However, just a heads up, that is only adding the contact's name to your database. So you need to go over to that contact and actually add in their email address, phone number, anything else. So that's how you can link up the spouse here. And you'll see that'll come into play as we create an opportunity coming up here to create our DocuSign room. So I'm going to go ahead and click create on the very bottom. All right, and I can go ahead and search for that contact I just added in. All right, so you can search for the contact that you just added in as a test. And simply go ahead and click on their name from your database to pull that open right away. All right, so all we've done so far, we added a contact to our database. It'll always be your first step. They need to be in your database first. And then now the next step will be we open their contact record in our database and select the opportunities option on the top white toolbar. Okay, if you're wondering what the heck opportunities, what that means, it's a great question. All right, and it's really just as corny as it sounds. So you're going to have a new opportunity per home that you sell, so per transaction. So if you are representing a client who is selling their home with you and then buying the next home, it'll be two separate opportunities that you're creating because it's two separate transactions or two separate properties, right? So an opportunity will simply be that, an opportunity for closing. So it's where you'll, and I'll show you this, of course, it's where you'll be going to access DocuSign. It's also where you'll be adding your signed forms to the opportunity to submit to your market center for review. All right, so it's really how you'll be managing your transaction in Command. I'll be showing you all of that. So let's go ahead and click on Create Opportunity on the top right. So So create opportunity on the top right. And that will pull up this pop-up here. I'm going to show you the main 3 fields that you have to fill out to continue. All right, and just a heads up, so I always like to create my opportunities from my contact record itself, as it allows me to see if I've already created an opportunity for this transaction. You know, if there's multiple transactions for this client, I can see that all on the opportunity section here. But just a heads up, you can create new opportunities from the handshake icon as well. And on the notes, on the bottom of the notes I sent you guys, there is the opportunities class as well, which will show you further on customizing that. If you'd like to check that out next, that would be a great follow-up class. All right, so 3 fields you have to fill out to continue here. All right, so I clicked on create opportunity on the right-hand side of our contact record. All right, the opportunities tab was first. This is following those notes I sent you guys. All right, first 3 fields, or main 3 fields, opportunity type. So if you want to jot this down, this is not on the notes per se, like the main 3 fields we need to fill out. So main 3 fields, opportunity type, you always need to pay attention to this, whether that's a listing, buyer, landlord, or tenant. You can go ahead and select that. So I'll select listing for today's class, but either buyer or listing will have to be the same concept. You can select whichever one here. So opportunity type, there's not a way to change that once you set it, so make sure you're paying attention there. Client is the second spot that you really need to pay attention to. So client and co-seller. So my client is automatically showing up there, right? Because we created the opportunity from the contact record. However, if I want to go ahead and add that co-seller in, they would have to already be in my database. So there's not a way to add the co-seller in at this time. However, if they are already in your database, especially if they're linked from that relationship linking, right, that I showed you guys, you'll see them display right here. You can search their name to go ahead and link up both contacts at one time. All right, the third and final field you have to fill out is this commission rate on the bottom. And that is just talking about your side of the commission. So not the full 6% for both sides, just whatever you usually charge, that 3%. Just a heads up, if your clients ever haggle you down the 2.5 like they like to do, this is always changeable. So just go ahead and put in what you normally charge. And then don't yet, if you don't mind, but at that point I could click create. So those are the 3 fields you have to fill out to continue. I'm going to tell you guys what the other fields mean too. But again, those 3 main fields, opportunity type, client, making sure this is correct here, and third, that commission rate, and then it will allow us to continue. Now I'm just going to talk briefly about the other fields so you guys feel comfortable. These will really apply for some of you. So starting from the top here, market center, most of you should have 1 market center here. However, if you're a transfer agent or an expansion agent that's active in more than 1 Keller Williams office, you may have more than 1 market center listed here. If that is true for you, make sure you put a star next to that, because you cannot change which market center the opportunity was created under after you do it. So make sure you're making sure that you put the correct opportunity under the correct market center. Team, this will be big for a lot of you. Hold tight to that. I'm going to go over the other options, and then I will come back to team in just a moment here. All right, owner. This is slightly confusing, so I just want to clarify that it's not talking about the owner of the property, that is talking about the owner of the opportunity. So that will say your name, unless this is a team opportunity, then that owner will say your rainmaker's name or your team leads. Good question, Dace. What if my client is both seller and buyer after selling? Terrific question. So in that case, you would want to first create the listing opportunity like we're doing here, right? How we have the listing. You'll create that, and then it will actually be a separate opportunity when they go to buy. So you'll have a separate opportunity for your listing documents and the listing paperwork and transaction that we're creating here. And then once they find a home that they're looking for to buy, you'll create a second opportunity for the buying side. So it'll be the same client, but you'll list that as a buyer to instead put all the buying contract documents in this one instead. Let me know if you have further questions on that. That's a great question. Coming on down, opportunity name. So if you do know the property address out the gate, your Market Center staff does search for the opportunity typically with the property address. So if you do know that, this is the recommended format for the opportunity name. So just a street address, client name, and then whether it's a listing or buyer. I'm going to skip over the fields that don't have that red star. Okay, the red star are the only fields we have to fill out to continue. So just to quickly explain these on the bottom, if you haven't taken a look at the opportunity section of Command quite yet, that's just referring to your pipeline. So you'll have pipelines on there, and you're just putting where on the pipeline this opportunity will sit, whether that's cultivate, appointment, or this is already active. And then the stage will just break down each phase further. And this is, of course, fully explained in the Opportunities 101 class, which is on the bottom of the notes I sent you guys. If you'd like to watch that next, that'll tie everything together. All right, so before we click create here, and you can do that if you're not on a team, feel free to go ahead and click create. If you are on a real estate team, if you could hyper focus real quick, I'm just going to explain real quick how team opportunities differ when you are creating these. So semi-recently, KW split the personal database and your team database into two separate databases. And you can always click on your name on the top right to toggle back and forth between your team profile and your personal profile. Now, in order to create opportunities under the team name, on your team pipeline, your contact needs to be entered into the team database specifically. Okay, so in that case, I could switch over to my team database to manually enter my contact into the team database. That contact still remains with me, right? I'm still the owner. If I'm entering the contact into the team database, if I were to leave the team, the contact stays with me, just a heads up. All right, so if that contact is already in your personal database, like in this situation, right, this contact's in my personal database, just a heads up, I can just switch that on over to the team database instead by clicking the three dots to the right-hand side of that client's name and click change account. And that'll allow me to switch this opportunity, or I'm sorry, switch the contact over to the team so I can create the opportunity on the team pipeline. Okay, so just a heads up on that for team member agents. Last fun fact for team member agents, when you are creating an opportunity under the team, as long as that client is in your team database, you will get one additional field, and that's the assignees field on the very bottom here. So that will allow you to assign other team members on the opportunity as well, so that the opportunity shows up on their pipeline. So off default, when you're on a team, your Rainmaker is able to see and help you manage all opportunities on the team pipeline automatically. When I say Rainmaker, I mean like your team lead, whichever agent started your team. However, other team member agents can be added to your opportunities as well from this assignees field to allow you to collaborate with them on the opportunity. So just a heads up for team member agents, and I will send out the link. Well, again, you guys have the link in the chat. But for team member agents, just a heads up, I do have a quick tip video for you. Team transactions overview, so that'll give you even more details in about 10-15 minutes of that tip video if you'd like to check that out after today's class. But today's class will fully apply to team member agents or solo agents. All right, so let's go ahead and create this opportunity. Let me just add this back in here. So I'll click on create, and I have that opportunity now added under here. Now I know that took a while because I was explaining it, but when you're actually going through this and creating an opportunity, you can do that in about 30 seconds, especially if you zero in on the fields that really apply to you. You can create that very quickly, and then simply click on their name, or the opportunity name rather, to open up the opportunity. Actually, let me add my other contact. I forgot to add him. Okay. So this will take, all I did so far is I clicked on the opportunity name from my contact record, right? And that brought me into the opportunity details. All right, the opportunity details here will autofill everything into DocuSign, which I'm going to show you how to get into next. All right, so that's all you really need to know for right now on the details section. All of this will autofill into DocuSign onto every single form. So if you know the listing address, you can click select from listings. Okay, this option will only be available for listing opportunities. Just a heads up, if it's a listing, you'll have select from listings. You can add the property address here. Granted, if you're just getting this buyer, for example, you won't know the property address, or you might not have the listing agreement quite yet, but just a heads up, that can be added here anytime. So about how we get into DocuSign is from the Documents tab specifically. Okay, so you'll have a Documents tab in your opportunity, and you'll see the option to start a transaction. Okay, I'm going to stress real quick how important it is that we always start our transactions from command. So it's super, super important that anytime you first start a transaction, that you do the steps we just did. We added a contact to our database, we created an opportunity, and now we open the opportunity, come to the Documents tab, and click Start a Transaction to actually start our DocuSign room, okay? It's really important that you do that specific workflow, and I'll say it again, so that your opportunity and your DocuSign room link together. There's lots of benefits why we want them to link, which I'll explain. All right, but again, very, very important that anytime you first start a transaction in DocuSign, right, is we always start that in command first. We do what we did today and what's on the notes I sent you guys. First step, right, adding the contact to our database. Second step, creating the opportunity. Third step, come to the Documents tab of that opportunity and click Start a Transaction. All right, that'll probably, when you click Start a Transaction, it'll probably take you right over to DocuSign if you don't have both .loop and DocuSign linked. I had both links, so it's showing me both. But when you click Start a Transaction, in theory, that'll take you right on over to DocuSign. You only have DocuSign linked. And that will prompt you to log in. So DocuSign is one of those passwords that you'll need to remember, login and password. That is an email address for the username. It just prompts for your login the first time of every day for security purposes. So you will need to enter that in theory, one time each day on your computer. And that'll take you to our DocuSign rooms directly. Okay, so again, super, super important that we are always creating our DocuSign rooms from the opportunity by clicking Start a Transaction. All right, Joe, if you are lost, if you have created your opportunity, all right, we are going to the Documents tab of our opportunity and clicking Go to Transaction, or Start a Transaction rather. So just in case I lost anyone, we created our opportunity from the contact record in our database. Again, these are the notes in the chat too of the steps we've done. All right, we're selecting the Documents tab of our opportunity. And then you'll click Start a Transaction. Oops, sorry, I didn't just send that directly to you, Dace. What's happening, Joe, when you click Start a Transaction? Is just nothing happening at all? Because it might be your pop-up blocker. If you click Start a Transaction and nothing happens at all, it's most likely your pop-up blocker. So make sure you disable your pop-up blocker. Of course, you want to make sure DocuSign was linked up in your command settings like we did at the beginning of class. So as long as DocuSign is linked up at the beginning to command, if you click Start a Transaction and nothing's happening, it's definitely your pop-up blocker. But just keep me posted if you have any other issue with that. Now, as you notice, since we're back here, since I click Start a Transaction, it changes that to Go to Transaction. So just so you're not confused. However, so again, that starts my DocuSign room in a separate tab here. So really important we do that workflow to connect our opportunity with our DocuSign room. The reason is all of our client's contact information needs to autofill from command. Our brokerage and our contact information as the agent will autofill from command onto all your forms. Okay, so that's a huge time saver is if you are creating the DocuSign room from your command opportunity, like we just did. It'll autofill the information over, and it will also allow you to very easily add your signed paperwork back to the opportunity when the time comes. All right, so again, very, very important that we start our transactions in Command. However, after that, if you just need to go to your DocuSign room, just a heads up, you guys can go to realestate.docusign.com to log in directly, and I'm going to throw that in the chat as well. So it's not DocuSign.com, it's the real estate side specifically. So realestate.docusign.com. You'll be able to log in anytime in the future and start and work on your transactions after we've started it in Command. That's the main point that I'm trying to harp on. So if you have any questions on that workflow, just let me know. But next on our list would be to add our documents to our DocuSign room. Okay, so next I'm going to show you how to access your documents in DocuSign, so our blank forms to edit and send for electronic signature. Now I'm in the documents tab of my DocuSign room now. Okay. Now I'll explain the difference between the documents tab here and in our opportunity. All right, but I'm in my DocuSign room in the documents tab. I'm going to click add on the top right. To go ahead and select the second option down. So that second option down, DocuSign forms, that is the option that gives you the forms that are already editable. So forms that you can just start typing in to fill in. That's what we want. So add on the top right, DocuSign forms from that drop down, second option down. And that may take you to a different pop-up than I'm seeing that's prompting you to put in your NERDS ID. All right, that may be required to access your forms. However, I'll show you how to check. So if you'd like to click to skip, the blue link on the bottom right to skip. Yes, Tal, if you filled out your form in zip forms, you are able to transfer the forms into DocuSign, and I'll point out where to do that. It's under add and in the zip forms, and it'll prompt you to actually link up your transaction zip forms. If depending on where you are, let me know what state you're in, because you can also access your forms probably directly from DocuSign, which I'm going to show you guys next, depending on the state that you're in. Excuse me. So far, again, I've clicked on add on the top right of DocuSign and those DocuSign forms option, and that will pull you up California. Yeah, California agents are just now able to add your forms from your NERDS ID. So I'll show you that brand new feature. It literally just dropped this week. However, if you prefer zip forms, you can absolutely continue to use zip forms with DocuSign, and I'll point that out as we go along. It'll just be slightly different steps, but I'll show you that. All right, so for accessing our forms here, all right, we have the groups on the left-hand side here. And we have our libraries as well. Now, if you are seeing your forms in here and they're showing no access on the right-hand side, so feel free to kind of click around on your groups if you're seeing those, or libraries. So if you're seeing forms and it's showing no access, or you're not seeing your libraries at all, I'm going to show you how you can go ahead and add your NERDS ID to DocuSign to get access to all of your forms for your state. All right, but just in general, if you are seeing your forms here, all right, how we go ahead and add those in is by simply either clicking the group on the left-hand side or the library to go ahead and select the documents from here and click Add Selected. All right, so if you do have the documents in here, feel free to play around. I'm going to show the rest of the class who does not have access to documents how to add your NERDS ID to access all your forms. However, if you do have your forms, this will be a great time for you to kind of look around your groups, get familiar with where your forms are. Your office staff organizes these form groups on the left-hand side to make these easier for you to find. So I would recommend kind of clicking through there to see which is in which group. Now, if you're not seeing your forms in here at all, or it's showing no access on the right-hand side of the form name, let me show you how to fix that. Okay, so if you are not seeing your forms, if you could follow me real quick, let's click on either, it'll be your headshot in a circle on the top right or your initial. Preferences. So again, headshot in a circle on the top right, preferences, and then integrations on the left-hand side. All right, so if you are on integrations, and I'll go ahead and send, just in case you need to get directly where I am, I'm just gonna send a link in the chat, just where I am. If you wanna click, it'll go directly to this page in your account. And this is the page that we need to make sure our NERDS ID is added to in order to have access to our forms directly in DocuSign. Now, if you prefer to use zip forms, there is an option to link up zip forms at the top if it's not already. So you can link up your zip forms account. However, you do typically have the option to add your forms directly to DocuSign, depending on your state, and I'll clarify, with your NERDS ID. So if you're seeing that National Association of Realtors right here, that means it's already linked up. I'm going to disconnect mine so I can show you guys what it looks like to link this up. So hang tight, because most of you probably aren't seeing an option. So most of you, it probably looks like this, right? We don't have our NERDS ID added in. So we can click on Add Provider right here. Okay, and for California agents, this is brand new as of this week. Previously, you had to view your forms in zip forms. There was not a way to link your forms automatically to DocuSign with your NERDS ID. That changed this week. So if you do want your California Association forms in DocuSign directly, you can go ahead and click on the California option, and it'll take you to the same next page that I'm going to. So just a heads up, the California and the Georgia ones were just added this week, so that's exciting. For everyone else who are not in California or Georgia, go ahead and click the Realtor option here to go ahead and link up the rest of the boards. So the Realtor option, oops, sorry. So this is the one we clicked. Okay, and this is the NAR, National Association of Realtors. That's how you get your NERDS ID. Oh, it always sounds funny. All right, if you're not sure what your NERDS ID is, you can click Find Your NERDS ID here. This would come directly from the National Association of Realtors. All right, make sure your last name matches your license here. This is where things really get fun. There's a list of associations that you need to select based on which association you're a part of. But the kicker is they're in no order that I can figure out. I think they're in the order they were added into, but they're not alphabetical. So, you know, it takes some scrolling to find that, but to help you out to see if your state is even on there in your association. So these notes, and again, I'll share this out. All right, these notes, but I'm going to grab these on the bottom, and I'm just going to share this directly. So don't worry about pulling this up. I'll go ahead and send this in the chat directly. Hang on. And again, if you're watching the class recorded, all of this is in the YouTube description below. So I'm just putting this in the chat. So this is to tell you if NERDS is able to be used for your forms to link, okay? So I made an alphabetized list to see if your state allows for NERDS to be linked like this. So go ahead and scroll to find your state. California, I'm still updating this. I'll provide a video for you guys. But for example, if you are in Florida or North Carolina, Illinois, depending on where you are, I saw a New York come into the chat. Okay, you'll have NERDS ID for certain boards. Anyway, go ahead and scroll to find which state you're a part of. And you'll see if the board is green, so if it's highlighted green, that's the one we need to look for. So for the entire state, you want to look for this association, and it will link up all the forms of the boards that you're a member of. So again, if you have any questions on this sheet, let me know. But what we're doing, we're taking that and we're going to now find our association from the list. I know this takes a second to find. All right, and once you add that association from the list and click to validate, that will add it in and give you access to your forms right away. And if you guys have any questions on that or need help, I can add that in for you. So feel free after class, if you want to shoot an email to support@scottleroymarketing.com, attention, my name, which is Leah, and I'm putting this in the chat. I just need your NERDS ID and DocuSign login and password, and I can add this in for you. So if you have any trouble, if it gives you an error or anything, shoot me an email after class. I'd be more than happy to help link this up and get access to your forms or help you figure out how to best get access to your forms. So I'm more than happy to help you guys. Again, the chat is my contact info. All right, so assuming that we got that linked up, let's come on over to our DocuSign room again. So I can show you how to edit the form and send that over for electronic signature to your client. So I'm clicking on the dashboard option on the top toolbar. All right, and that should take you to your most recently viewed rooms and your new rooms here. So you should be able to see your most recent rooms from the dashboard, but of course you can always click on the rooms option too to be able to search your rooms and find all of them. So either way you'd like to navigate, if you want to go ahead and pull open your room again in the Documents tab. Okay. So we're in the Documents tab of your DocuSign room. And if you did just add your NERDS ID, now when you click on Add on the top right and select DocuSign Forms, you should have access to those right away. Now on the left, I'm just going to go ahead and bring in some forms so I can show you guys how to go ahead and edit and send those for electronic signature. So as you can see, I'm simply checking the check boxes of the forms I'd like to add and clicking Add Selected. Now, if you are using zip forms, you can click on Add and click on the zip form option instead. That will link your transaction zip form to DocuSign, so you can actually pull your forms right over. So that's a pretty easy transition as well. If you prefer to use zip forms, absolutely feel free. If you have templates in there and so forth. All right. Tal, you might want to shoot me an email. I might need to look into your NERDS ID if there's only 5 options for forms. Your NERDS ID may not be entered in properly. I'd be more than happy to take a look. Thanks. All right, so editing these forms are pretty straightforward. I think you're gonna like it. So how we edit the form once we have them in our DocuSign room is simply click on the form to open that up to start editing. So now when I pull open that form, I'll notice that some of my fields are autofilling because I started my transaction in Command, right? Added the contact, created the opportunity, and then click Start a Transaction. I can now see that my client's information is autofilling from my contact database in Command. My brokerage information and agent information will autofill onto the form. If you were to have added the property info to the opportunity, that would autofill, and so forth. So as far as editing these forms go, it's pretty intuitive. All you'll want to do is simply click to start editing. Okay, so editing this is pretty easy. As far as any text fields, simply click to start typing. Any radio dots, you can just click to select. One thing to note, if you are used to using dot loop, the initial boxes and signature fields will automatically display on the forms, just not on this screen. So I just don't want you to be alarmed. You won't see initial and signature fields already on here, but those will automatically display on your forms as long as this is a fillable form you're filling out. All right, so in practice, right, let's say we go through and fill out the entire form. As you're doing that, guys, I would recommend clicking Save and Close intermittently on the top right to save your changes. It's the worst when you do all this work and then it doesn't save or whatever the case may be. So I would recommend clicking Save and Close maybe every couple pages that you fill out just to make sure that saves. However, let's talk about real quick before I show you how to pull this in for electronic signature. let me show you how you can print out the form if you want to, let's say, type in the form and then bring that on your appointment to have that hand signed. Okay, I'm going to pull that form back open here just by clicking on it. And so yeah, absolutely. So the question is, can you repeat the steps after creating the opportunity, I believe. So once we clicked on start a transaction from our opportunity, right, we added our form that created the DocuSign room here. So from the opportunity in command, I clicked on start a transaction on the right hand side, and that started my DocuSign room. It took me to the documents tab where I can click on add on the top right to add those DocuSign forms. This is where I can select the group name or library name on the left-hand side to then go ahead and select any forms. By just checking that, you can do multiple at a time and click add selected. So to show you guys how to print out any forms that we are editing. So if you do want to take this on an appointment, you want to type it up because it looks more professional, but your clients feel better with hand signatures. Right, that's totally fine. If that is how you do your business, you can continue getting your forms hand signed. All right, so what you'll want to do in that case, once you edit the form, so if you're printing out the form, of course you'll want to edit it typically on, right from here. Of course, you can edit it after you print it too. All right, but here's the catch. If this is something you plan to do, I might jot down to make sure you click save and close first before you come up to the print option, which I'll show you up here. So the print option is under document actions. So that's the icon that looks like a folded sheet of paper on the top right. So this is where you'll see that print option. You'll have an option to download. Okay, but what's important for you guys to know for this is once you fill out the entire form, make sure to click save and close first before coming back in to print this. Okay, if you fill out the form and don't click save, and you just try to print it, it won't save your work and it'll just print a blank form. That's not fun for anyone. So to save your hair from being pulled out, again, if you are printing this out, make sure you type up the entire form first, click save and close on the top right. I didn't need to click that. And then you'll be able to pull the form back open to come to document actions and print that right from here. All right, so that's how you can print the form. If you want to bring that on your appointment for hand signatures, that's absolutely fine. However, in order to send this over for electronic signature, we need to add it to an envelope, okay? And you can do this to one form at a time or multiple forms at a time as well. But the key here, anytime you want to send for electronic signatures, remember the word envelope, okay? Envelope, and this makes sense if you channel snail mail here, right? If you were going to send forms in the mail, what would be the first thing you do? Grab an envelope. So you can do that for one document at a time, or you can send multiple documents at a time for electronic signatures. So if it's just one document, again, you can click on the document actions on the top right to click create envelope. But just remember, right, we always click save and close first before doing anything from this list. Okay, so this is how you can just create the envelope right from here to go ahead and get the sending process going. Or I'm going to show you how to send multiple at once. You can also click the check dot or the check squares on the top left of any of these forms here. All right, so let's say you want to send like the initial listing paperwork, right? 3 forms, however many you usually send for the listing paperwork. Once you click the check boxes to the left of that form name, you'll then see a bulk action menu appear. So this bulk action menu will not appear unless you have something checked, right? So nothing's checked, no bulk action menu. Check some forms and like magic, we get that bulk action menu. So the icon for bulk action or for creating an envelope is this little pen icon. It's the DocuSign option. So that pen icon is what you're wanting to look for. So I'm checking the forms, and in theory, right, I've edited all these forms already. So in theory, right, the first step, we come into this documents tab and grab these forms to edit them first. So I've filled out all of these forms and click save and close so far. I'm then checking the documents that I've edited and want to send. and selecting that create envelope option. And Lance, there's not a way to edit the text that you're putting in that we from editing it right from there. You can edit the text further in the next step, which I'll point out. But yeah, it doesn't allow you to bold or highlight the text or make it bigger from the documents tab. But I'll show you a workaround, Lance. Okay, so this is pulling the forms into the envelope. So again, let's channel snail mail to make sense of this. So we grabbed an envelope and we added the documents to them. Okay, that makes logical sense. So here are our documents. You can reorder them by dragging them around. You can always X out of any forms you don't need. You can add additional forms to the envelope from the room docs option here as well. That blue button. So just a heads up, you can continue kind of messing around with the forms here. But the main thing that we need to do in this envelope is add the recipients to the envelope. Again, makes sense with snail mail, right? We grabbed the envelope, added the forms. Now we need to add the recipients to the envelope. So I'm going to click on add recipients. You'll want to select the top option here for pre-tagged roles. So pre-tagged roles is the option that will allow the initial and signature boxes to automatically display. So pre-tagged roles here. And this is where we're going to go ahead and line up seller 1, seller 2, listing agent, and so forth. Okay. So for in this case, I'll go ahead and add in my clients. And my clients are automatically on this drop-down menu because they pulled over from my command database. Because I started my opportunity in command first and then clicked on start a transaction. If and only if it is a form that you need to sign as the agent, you can add yourself to the envelope as well. So under listing agent, I'll go ahead and add myself. However, just note that if you are not signing the form, right, which mainly it's things like listing agreement and buyer agency, working with real estate agents, you know, there's a few forms, of course, you'll sign as the agent. So if that is true, if you are signing these forms, you can go ahead and add yourself and click add selected. All right, if you are not signing as the agent, you don't need to add yourself to the envelope. Okay, we're just adding people who need to sign the form. So there we go. We see add under the add recipients. We see that our clients are added in and that they can sign. All right, we're on the final step here, guys. So hang tight. We're just really clicking send on the next step. So if we can click on next on the top right. That'll take you to view the form in the envelope before we send that out. So this will be the final step. Okay, usually, it's a wonderful sentence. Usually I do nothing on this page except check things over and click send, which don't quite yet, so I can explain things. All right, but really there's not anything you have to do at this point. If I scroll down, right, I'll see my form edited, right, because I already edited this in the documents tab. But this is where I'll see those initial and signature fields at the bottom of each page. Okay, so these initial and signature fields automatically display on the form as long as we added those clients in as recipients that need to sign, like we did on the last page. So I'll see that each of the initial boxes are a different color, just a heads up that correlates with the client's name on the top left. Click the name on the top left. You'll see all the different people in the transaction with a different color correlated to their name. And that allows you to really go down and just make sure, okay, all parties can sign. All parties can sign very visually. I can see on the right-hand side, right, anytime I see these colors, that means there's a field for each one of those clients to sign. So again, I usually don't really do anything here except click on recipient preview on the top right to really just check myself. So I click on recipient preview on the top right. And this is where I can select, all right, which client am I viewing this as? And this is just a preview, right? So I can select that I'm viewing it as this client. I can actually click start once this loads right here. And this will just take me through the client's view of what it looks like when, you know, client 1 goes to sign. This is not actually signing the form as the client or anything. It's just showing you, okay, I can sign all these pages so far. I set it up correctly as the agent. Helps me sleep at night, you know. So once you've checked over everything, you're convinced it looks good, you can X out on the top right and click send. That yellow send button. And that's the final step here. All right. And what would happen is it will send the form on over to your client's email account, their email address, and it will prompt them to electronically sign right from there. All right. And I know we're at 2 o'clock. If you guys have 10 minutes to stick around, I'm going to explain how signed forms work in DocuSign. So when they come back as signed, it's a little different in DocuSign. And I'm going to also show you how to add your signed paperwork to your opportunity for compliance review. So if you do have 10 minutes, feel free to stick around. If not, of course, this class is being recorded and we'll be on those notes shortly here. But before I click send, Lance, just to answer your question, you cannot edit the text fields on you can't bold or highlight the text when you're editing that from the documents tab. But if you wanted to, you could actually add text fields from here. So if this is a field that you just need to add in as the agent to type in, and this is kind of a workaround, just a heads up, I go into this much further in the DocuSign 201 class, which is next Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern. But if you were adding in a text box as the agent, you can do that actually from these pre-fill tools on the left-hand side. Okay, these pre-fill tools that are all gray means those are just for agents to fill out. So it will not, make your clients fill out anything. Since they're gray, that's just indicating to you that you can drop the field and edit that to your liking. So if you do select the text field, and again, that's under pre-fill tools, text here. All right, so it would allow you, if you added in some text here, to edit that further on the right-hand side. You can bold it, underline it, change font, and so forth. So you can edit the text here, Lance, as a workaround. However, so to let me know if that helps or if you have any questions on that, that would be a workaround to this. Yeah, no problem. And Carmen, I am not going over creating templates today. However, that is on the DocuSign notes, and that's what I do in the DocuSign 201 video or 201 class next week. But if you're looking for templates, that's this one right here. It's highlighted yellow, so you can watch that after class. I'll share these again. All right, but the last 10 minutes here or less, I'm going to just show you, explain how signing forms work in DocuSign, how signed copies come back, and lastly, just adding your signed copies to your command opportunity for compliance review. So I'll go over this real quick. If you can stick around, wonderful. If not, again, this is being recorded. All right, so again, right, all we did on there was recipient preview and then click send. And that'll take me right on over to the envelopes tab of your DocuSign room, which we haven't really talked about quite yet. All right, we've talked about what an envelope is, and that is the first thing that you get whenever you're trying to send your forms for electronic signature, right? You grab an envelope first. So the envelopes tab, to explain that, will show you any time that you've sent one form or multiple forms in an envelope. So especially, and I'll switch over to a form that, or a room that I've sent multiple, but you'll see a different envelope in here, depending on how many times you've sent forms for signature, excuse me. Now, if it's a form that you need to sign as the agent, okay, it will send you a copy of the form to your email account so you can sign it from there. So you will get a copy in your email notifying you to sign. But you as the agent can also sign that directly from the envelopes tab, right? You'll see it says needs my signature. I think they switched the default view. So just a heads up, you can see list view or grid view. I just switched it. I like grid view. But if it says needs my signature, you can go ahead and click on that and it will actually allow you to sign as the agent directly from here. So just a heads up. But let's talk real quick about how the signed forms come back to you in DocuSign. And to show you this, I'm just going to switch over to a different room that I have where I have signed documents. So I can show you an example. Okay, so first of all, just where I was, right in the other room is the envelopes tab. So just to show you, like, this is an active transaction I had. This is each time I sent out one form or a group of forms, this is how it'll look. So I can view those separately, those envelopes, and I was testing things in here, so you won't generally have this many normally. But just a heads up, this is where you can see all your envelopes each time that you sent a document or a group of documents for signature. Now, once you send the form for electronic signature, let's say you have two parties that are needing to sign. Okay, you will get a notification, an email notification each time that a client signs. So let's say you get an email notification that client A has signed, right? If you come back into your DocuSign room to try to find that signed document, the signed document does not come back to your DocuSign room until all parties have signed that form. So if you have seller A and seller B that are needing to sign the form, right, again, you'll get a notification that seller A has signed the form, and attached to that notification email, you will have a PDF of the form attached on the bottom that shows the signature from that one client. However, if you come into your DocuSign room, you will not see the signed copy of that form until both parties or all parties have electronically signed that. All right, so you can tell the difference here. So as you're looking at these documents here, you'll see the ones that have this green signed icon. That is the fully signed document. Now, when these fully signed documents come back to DocuSign, once all parties have signed them, those do come back as a totally separate PDF. So for example, here's my original listing agreement. This is the editable form. If I click on this to pull it up, I can just start typing on it. I know that it's the original editable form because of this blue form icon. That is the same icon that when I clicked on add, right? This DocuSign form icon, same icon. Just trying to draw this full circle for you guys. That means any one of these that have this blue form icon mean that's the original editable version of the form. Once it comes back signed, it'll come back as a totally separate copy of the form. Right? It's the same form. It comes back as a totally separate copy of the form with the green signed icon, and it comes back as a PDF, meaning that I cannot edit it, right? It's not editable. And the reason being is it has a signature, so it preserves the signatures on there. All right, so again, just a heads up, original copy that's editable will always have the blue icon, but your signed paperwork, once it's been signed by all parties, you'll get that coming back to your DocuSign room as a totally separate form showing signed right here. And if you have any questions on that, please feel free to let me know. But the last thing I want to show you is just how to go ahead and pull that signed paperwork into your opportunity for compliance review. Okay, so let me just add a signed form real quick so I can show you. And you can just watch on my screen from here because I know I'm kind of clicking around on you. Sorry, I'm just grabbing an example form so I can show you guys. And as far as in the DocuSign 201 class, just a heads up, again, that's next Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern time. I'll be showing you guys how to edit PDFs, create templates. I'll be showing you guys how to, all the next level tricks of DocuSign will be included in that class. So if you'd like that, feel free to join me again next Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern time. Okay, but the last thing I need to show you in today's class before I wrap this up, so I'm actually going to go back to my command opportunities. I am kind of throwing a curveball at you guys, right? That should be open in a separate tab, right? When you have your DocuSign, that'll be a separate tab with the yellow download icon. That's DocuSign. And then the command documents section will always have the red KW logo. Now, we've been working in the documents section of your DocuSign room that whole time, right? Because we worked in the DocuSign section of your document section of your DocuSign room to access your forms, edit your forms, and send for electronic signature, right? That's what we've been doing the whole class in the Documents tab. So to clarify how these two work together, the Documents tab of your DocuSign room, again, is used to access your forms, edit your forms, and send for electronic signature. So that is used between the agent and your client to get your forms signed. Once your forms come back signed, you need to come over to the Documents tab of your opportunity to add your signed paperwork to submit to your office for compliance review. So the Documents tab of your opportunity is being used between the agent and your office to submit your signed paperwork so you can get that closing check at the end. Okay, so this is a very important part because you cannot get your closing check without submitting your signed forms with these next couple steps here. All right, and this should take me 2 minutes to show you. All right, so where I am again is in the documents tab of my opportunity. If you lost this tab altogether, no worries. Feel free to just navigate on over to your opportunity. Simply click on that opportunity name to open it up. Okay, so just go find your opportunity, or you can just watch on my screen. That's totally fine. So I'm in the documents tab of my opportunity. And on the left-hand side, we have pick checklist type. Now yours may already just have a checklist displaying here. So if you only have one checklist in your office, so set up by your office staff, then it would already be displaying the checklist. However, if it says pick checklist type, go ahead and click on that so you can select which checklist would apply to this transaction. Now, once I select the checklist, on the left-hand side, I'll see 3 folders, or if it's a sale, I'll only see 2, but you'll either see listed, under contract and closed, or you might just see under contract and closed, depending on which checklist you selected. All right, so if you click on each one of these, you'll see a separate checklist for each status of the transaction, telling you which forms are required for your listing file or under contract file or closed file in order to A, stay out of real estate jail, and B, get your closing check at the end. So pluses on both. However, what we're going to do to pull that over, so from the documents tab, I select that folder. So now to pull this from my DocuSign room. So at this time in the workflow, right, I have my signed paperwork back. And now I'm adding that to my opportunity to submit for compliance review. Interesting, that's new. So just a heads up, where it says DocuSign right here, right, you may have to click on working folder. This is brand new, actually. You can click on room docs. So if all these are gray, you might need to select room docs here. And then it will allow you to select from the drop-down menu to select any signed forms or paper or PDFs that you have in this specific DocuSign room. So at this point, what we're doing is we're going through, and any forms that say required, we're grabbing the signed form from our DocuSign room by simply clicking on the drop-down and selecting the form name from that list. All right, so just a heads up, that will be the final step here. Once you have your signed paperwork, you do need to be adding the signed paperwork to your listing file or contract file or close file in the documents tab of your opportunity. Then once you add those in, okay, once I add those in, it will then give me the option to submit to my MC. So your Market Center staff don't really look at your opportunities unless you click submit to MC. And generally you'll want to submit to your Market Center for compliance review after you have your listing file completed. So just to give you a general overview on when to click to submit to MC, and check with your Market Center staff on any compliance policies. Your Market Center staff, whatever they say trumps what I say, as each office has just slightly different policies. But just to give you a general idea of when you submit your paperwork for compliance review, you'll do that 3 times if you're representing the listing. That'll be once when you go live on the MLS and you submit all your listing paperwork fully signed. You'll click submit to MC. Excuse me. You'll submit to MC a second time when you go under contract. You'll add all your contract paperwork and then click submit to MC. And then a third time when you close, add all your closing paperwork, click submit to MC. If you're representing the buyer, of course, that'll be 2 times. That'll be once when you go under contract. You'll add your contract paperwork and submit to MC, and then a second time when you close. Now, just a heads up, this will be a very brief mentioning, but when you go under contract, you'll also need to be submitting the offers and commissions tab as well. So anytime you go under contract, we fill that out. And I'm sending you a video on how to do that, but it's on the notes. Highlighted, create a commission request. You'll do that anytime that you go under contract. Okay, and I'll just send that in the notes. So commission request, that is just telling your office how they're splitting up your commission check. Are they giving you the entire commission? Are they splitting your commission check to another agent in your office, paying an outside referral? So that's what the commission request does. That's telling your office how they're splitting the commission. Again, that's in the chat and on the notes that I sent out on the second page highlighted. you want to grab that, that'd be a great video to watch next. All right, thank you for sticking around. I apologize, I went a little over here. If you have any questions, of course, I know this is a bunch of information all at once. So please let me know if you run into any roadblocks. I'd be more than happy to help you. Again, you can email me specifically, and I'd be more than happy to take a look at your account. I can take a look at your transaction that you have going on, any weird form issues. You can email me at support@scottleroymarketing.com and attention my name, Leah in the subject, Leah, and I'd be more than happy. That'll come straight to me so that I can help you with that. All right, guys, if you have any questions, you know where to find me. The DocuSign 201 class will be next Thursday, and that'll be a great addition to kind of pull everything full circle for DocuSign to fully help you guys. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you guys so much for your kind words and for coming to class. And again, if you need me, support@scottleroymarketing.com. Awesome. Thank you so much for the feedback. I really appreciate it. And if I didn't get to anyone's question, I'll be sticking around here. So feel free to throw that back in the chat. I'm going to sign off as far as the recording goes, but if you have further questions, just shoot them in the chat. All right, guys, hope this helps, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. Take care.